What do you feel are the keys to building trust and credibility within an organization?
Authenticity. And it's something that's the Arthur Page Society has been advocating. I think that's essential. Authenticity, transparency. What we talked about earlier with social media. Everybody's got a communications platform today. I think there are no barriers anymore. There's no internal, external. Their communications crosses easily throughout a company and across borders and across geographies, across audiences. And so you've got to be authentic. You've got to come across as transparent and real and honest, because otherwise somebody's going to call you out on it. Somebody's going to refute what you're saying or disagree with what you're saying. And today they've got a platform to do that and give themselves a voice to do that. And so that authenticity piece is important. And for a lot of companies, that's a significant change, where the business environment has grown up, where it's more of we control the message, we manage the message, we push out messages. It's a very different environment to say, I'm participating in a conversation now about my business, and I understand that many stakeholders now who are connected to my organization and my enterprise have the power to have a voice and build an audience around my business and what I care about. And so it's a different dynamic to sit back and say, well, how do I participate in that and listen to that and understand that, versus how do I manage a message and how do I push out a message to audiences?
Do you think that senior management is understanding this change? And I'm not talking about at any specific company, but in general.
Again, I think the change is happening right before our eyes, and so it depends on what company you're looking at, what industry you're looking at. I think everybody is starting to understand how social and how technology is influencing everything. And so I don't see social media, for example, as just a channel. I see social media as an idea, a way we engage with each other that is starting to influence every aspect of our lives and every aspect of our business environment. And I think more and more executives are getting that. So social media is not just Twitter or let's throw up a Facebook page. Social media is a way of operating and a way of communicating, because it influences the way we connect with each other and the way we engage with each other. And again, depending on what company you're looking at or what industry you're looking in, I would go back to, I think if you look at a company where you say, wow, I really respect that company, I respect that brand, I trust that brand, I trust that company seems to be innovating. I think if you looked underneath the hood, those would be companies where the senior leadership team truly does understand the fundamental changes that are going on in the world and how those fundamental changes are affecting the way we communicate with each other and communicate on a global basis.
Are there any things that you'd like to talk about in terms of ethics in public communication that we haven't talked about?
I was at the Edelman Trust Barometer event at Davos, and it is certainly distressing to see how corporations are perceived and the lack of trust with government officials and CEOs that show up in the Trust Barometer every year. And I think that's, if there is a critical issue facing our profession, it's that broad issue of trust. How does the public perceive, where do they get their information, who do they rely on, who do they trust? How do they perceive corporations? How do they perceive CEOs? How do they perceive media? How do they perceive government officials? And we play a critical role in all of that. And as communication professionals, how are we seen when we talk about something, when we represent our organizations? Which gets back to the importance of authenticity and transparency and engaging and listening and not just talking. And I think those are some of the changes affecting the world and affecting our profession. And if you don't have trust, you're on a pretty shaky foundation if you don't have trust with an audience you're trying to communicate with. And so I think how we think about that and how we help shift perception of the things you trust and the sources of information you trust is one of the critical challenges facing companies today, facing government today, and often facing media today. And certainly communications professionals and chief communication officers play a critical role in that.